Let's welcome in now former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik to try and answer that question. Bernie, great to see you as always.
Thank you.
All right, so the Pentagon under fire for placing limits on the National Guard here. We're also hearing reports about the Capitol Hill Police Department rejecting offers from the National Guard to help secure the area. You know, Bernie, I think it's fair to say, had you been in charge of securing the scene, this would not have happened. But how did this happen?
Well, John, I think there's a lot that's going to be, a lot will come out of this investigation. Primarily, I now have seen 4 different spots around the White House. I've seen videos, 4 different locations where the officers themselves opened the gates and waved people in and allowed them to come in. What that was about, whose direction that was, who ordered that to be, I don't know, but I'm confident that's going to be a major part of this investigation. Then you're going to have another part that involves the breach of the internal parts of the Capitol building. One of the parts where the young woman was shot and killed by, I assume, the Capitol Police. These are things that will come out of the investigation. I think it's too early to determine. I don't want to speculate,
right.
But I have to tell you, based on what I've seen, there was a lack of security, a lack of leadership, a lack of command structure, and they just were not prepared, for whatever was to come. And I want to stress this for a second, John. I was at the rally, and I went back to my hotel after the rally, but I can tell you there were close to 1 million people on the mall between where the president spoke and the Washington Monument, beyond the monument, and that demonstrate that area was completely peaceful. Whatever happened down at the Capitol, and I anticipate you're going to see a lot of instigators and anarchists for Black Lives Matter and Antifa.
Well, anyone who knows anything about these protests, there is a professional class of protesters. They have no ideology. They have no real morals. They don't really believe anything other than just tearing down the system. And, we'll see exactly what comes of this investigation. But I want to also focus on that moment you talked about when that woman was shot and killed. And, again, we can wait for the investigation to happen. We don't know why she was in there, or whether she probably should not have been in there in the first place. But we just see we're watching the video here of when she was shot. She's obviously blurred out because it's too hard to watch. But when you see a police officer shoot someone like that, Bernie, and then you have uniformed officers right behind her, is it too hard to say at this point if the shooting was justified or not? I mean, certainly she should not have been here, apparently, but it doesn't really seem like she was a threat to anyone's life at this point.
You know what, John? I'm the last person to criticize the police, and I think you know that. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but in this case, I don't see the justification for deadly force. You can see her clearly. She posed no physical deadly threat to anyone, and she was shot and killed. I think this is going to be a major problem for the person that used deadly force. Think back to the riots of last year, John, in May and June last year, where they basically burned down Washington, D.C., Molotov cocktails, explosive devices, you name it. And the police were criticized. They were criticized for even coming close to using deadly force or munitions or anything else.
And Bernie, and again, we don't know if this is the case here. I think this is going to
be a big problem.
But when they talk about defunding the police, a lot of time that money is taken away from training programs, and things that are preparing police officers for this type of response. And again, we don't know if that was the case here, but you can see this is going to be problematic down the line if police officers are not getting the training and support they need, whether it's the Capitol Police, the New York City Police Department, the Atlanta Police Department, or wherever. We're going to have more problems like this and a lack of ability to de-escalate the things. That's what you talk about so much with us. Police officers' objective here in this situation is to de-escalate the situation, and that's going to be hard if they're not getting the right training to do so.
De-escalate. Don't use deadly force. But when you diminish the police or you defund the police, you take away that training, you take away those tools, you take away de-escalation tactics. You take away everything that we've worked for 20 or 30 years to put in place to de-escalate. When you defund the police, you take that away. So I don't know what people are thinking, but they better take a step back, take a look at what's going on and regroup.
Yeah. I want to talk about something you mentioned earlier, because we have some video here to show. You know, we saw video of police officers retreating. One officer looked scared for his life. And, you know, again, this to me looks, and again, you know way more about this than I do, but it looks like a lack of training, a lack of, you know, support. You always have a supervisor. You're supposed to have a supervisor you can call when a situation gets bad, but it doesn't look like these guys radioed for help. It didn't look like the support was there for them when they needed the backup that they needed. And you can fault these guys for letting people in, but again, you know, they have sergeants and they have lieutenants and they have, you know, leaders who are supposed to prevent this stuff from happening or preventing them from being in this situation in the first place.
The strange thing about this, John, is they just didn't, you know, let them in. If you watch some of the videos online, they actually waved them in.
Yeah.
They actually said, come on. They opened the gates and waved them in and directed them into parts of the Capitol. Like I said, I have no idea what that was. I don't know where the supervisors were. But yeah. I can't explain. Watching it as an outsider, I definitely can't explain it. I can't even come close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start a conspiracy theory. You have to wonder if they were really even police officers. And again, this is all going to be part of the investigation. There is so much video from this. It's all being poured over. You know, we got about a minute left here real quick, Bernie, but can you just talk to us about what that's like for investigators to have to watch all this video, and what do you expect in terms of a timeline? I would imagine some more arrests will happen pretty quickly, but long term, what do you expect here?
Well, listen, it's a lot easier today than it was, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. First of all, there's facial recognition. Secondly, there's an enormous amount of footage that's been captured by reporters and intelligence agencies within police departments over the last 2 or 3 years with regard to Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They're going to be able to track and identify a bunch of these people. And there's a bunch of footage from within that's already out. I posted something on Twitter today. The FBI is trying to identify a certain number of people for things. That's going to get out. The people will be identified, and hopefully the people responsible for the violence inside will be held accountable.
Yeah, and because of that executive order that President Trump signed, they're going to face stiffer penalties because this happened on federal property. Bernie, great to see you as always. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, John.
All right.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.